All right, so I'm calling to order the regular meeting of the Commission of the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission. It is October 9th at 7:03 p.m. and our meetings are digitally recorded and being held virtually through Zoom. I had to think for a moment there, pursuant to Section 20 of the Acts of 2021, allowing public meetings to be conducted remotely so that that members as well as members of the public can participate remotely. So let me switch over on my screen to the agenda. First up, we have acceptance of the previous meeting's minutes. I'd like to handle this by getting a motion and then a second, and then handling any changes to the minutes through friendly amendment. So would somebody like to make a motion to accept the previous minutes?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Thank you. And do we have a second?
Second.
All right, and here in a second, any discussion or correction on the minutes from the previous meeting? All right, hearing none, I'm calling a vote by roll call since this is a virtual meeting. Jason, can you call the roll?
Yeah, sorry, my computer was going slow there for a second.
No problem.
Doug Thornton,
Aye.
Guy Corbacero,
Dane wasn't present.
Brian Keating,
Yes, yes,
Robert Swartz, Bob Swartz. I'm going to move on. Thomas Russo,
Aye.
Peter Cunningham,
Yeah, Cunningham abstained. I was not at the meeting.
and Christopher Monroe.
Monroe, aye.
And we'll try one more time, come back to Robert Swartz.
I abstain. I wasn't at that meeting.
There we go. Thank you. I think that's it.
All right, thank you. The motion carries and the minutes are accepted. And I just want to return to the yes, Karen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Point of order, were there enough votes to pass those minutes if everyone was abstaining? Well, not everyone, but just a number.
We got 4 approvals and 3 abstain.
Yep, that is a vote after having a quorum at the meeting. So
Thank you.
The quorum of those present, so yeah, I'd say
Yeah,
yes.
it's good. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Excellent, thank you. So returning to the first item, just to make sure I was not remiss, there aren't any unagenda any guests here that are not on the agenda. I was just double checking before we got too far ahead of ourselves.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
No guess.
All right. Well, then going forward on the agenda to item number 3, we have the cash schedule. Mr. Schwartz, would you do us the honors?
Sure. Actually, we have 2, and I'll read them both. So we'll probably vote for both of them. First one is August 1st to August 31st, 2025. Opening balances $781,191.59. Cash receipts, and there's interest earned for that is for cash receipts is $444.10. Then we transferred $7,000 from the checking account. So the total receipts are $119,507.57. Total cash on hand before this warrant. $880,699.16, less the amount of the August cash disbursements of $157,969.21. Balance after the warrant, $722,729.95. So the total on deposit is $722,729.95. That is for August. September 1st to September 30th. On deposit. Total on deposit is $722,729.95. Cash receipts. Earned interest for the cash receipts, $189.92, gives us a total receipts of $262,173.96. Total cash on hand before this warrant, $984,903.91, less the amount of this warrant, or all cash disbursements, $303,308.50. Balance after the warrant, $681,595.41. Move to accept the cash schedules for August and September.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Here in a first, do we have a second?
Second. Okay.
It sounds like we have a second there. Any additional discussion on it? All right, here none, calling a vote by roll call.
Doug Thornton,
Morton, aye.
Guy Corbacero,
Aye.
Brian Keating,
Aye.
Robert Schwartz,
Aye.
Thomas Russo,
Aye.
Peter Cunningham,
Yeah, Cunningham, aye.
Christopher Monroe.
Aye.
I believe that's it.
All right, thank you. The motion carries. All right, moving forward on the agenda, item number 4, coming back to guest announcements and questions. And as we discussed from the introduction, it appears we do not have any guests. No changes to that in the last 5 minutes. Excellent. Here none, let's move forward into administrative matters. Glenn, turning it over to you to talk about the shutdown.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'll go as quickly or slowly as you want through the admin matters. There's more exciting stuff to hear from department heads after these things. So the gist of the shutdown is that we, while we do have an EPA contract, we do have a new contract with Economic Development Administration. The reality is that the majority of our contracts, as it says in these paragraphs, are contracts with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And while some of those have some federal funds in them, right now we do not anticipate any slowdown to any revenue. That can change tomorrow, and I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know what's going to happen. Tracy worked on submitting a drawdown to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency for our brownfields contract today. Ironically, I don't know if it's irony or not, but the reality is that for some reason, during the government shutdown, the federal EPA staff, at least at the Boston office, which is the Region 1 office, and that's who our contacts are, they are still working. And the drawdown system called ASAP or ASAP is still working. Jason, could you scroll down below the table, please? The table is a copy and paste out of our timesheet. So that shows you just currently the contracts that we have, just in case you wanted to see what they are. You'll hear more about some awards that, from Karen in a few minutes. And I really hope, you want to hear from her soon. That paragraph under the table is indirectly related to funding. There is every 2 Wednesdays, I believe, the State Attorney General's office holds a meeting for mayors, town managers, chief elected officials, and others who are willing to attend. We did interestingly learn a couple days ago that there were some illegal conditions placed on grants by the federal administration on FEMA funding, Federal Emergency Management Agency funding, in a state. I don't recall the state name. And those are no longer allowed by court order. So while the federal administration is trying to insert language into grant awards and contracts with the federal government, this lower court decision said, no, that's not cool. Now, will that be appealed by the federal administration? Past practice, past observation is probably yes. Will it go to the Supreme Court? Again, I don't have a crystal ball. That's just the gist of the federal shutdown. So far, we are not directly affected. That may or may not change. That's my only message under 5.1. Mr. Chair, Mr. Cunningham has a hand up.
I was about to say, Mr. Cunningham.
Yeah, thank you. Real quickly, Glenn, what were those, I guess, examples of those conditions?
It's the same stuff you hear in the media about environmental justice, that doesn't exist, DEI, anything that's woke, all the key buzzwords.
Yeah.
And climate change, those kinds of things. So anything that talks about those kind of areas in which the federal administration does not support. There's also language that was proposed to be in a transportation contract months ago about adding language to our then future but now current MassDOT contract from the feds, between the feds and the state and us, about thou shalt cooperate with ICE for ICE enforcement. So those things you hear about in the media, the federal administration is basically adding into contracts. Those are some examples. I can't give you specific examples about what happened here with this particular agreement. They didn't go into a great level of detail. They just said federal administration tried it, the court kicked it out.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Any additional questions on that item? Otherwise, please continue.
Sure. So I had made a mistake when I proposed the salary increases, and I calculated an overhead rate, and the calculation was incorrect at the September meeting. So, and I want to thank the department heads. We had a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and they said, "Wait a minute, your math was wrong," and they were absolutely right. So I went back to the budget, went back to the spreadsheet, went over it again last week, went over it again today. Thank you, Holly, for soundboarding, because she saw a couple of mistakes that I made today to make sure that the numbers were correct. So the gist is that where I thought we had about proposed at this point in time by doing those raises and shifting responsibilities, I calculated incorrectly that we'd have about an overhead rate of about 114.61%. It's actually 147.66. If you go down to the yellow table, Jason, that's the math that comes right out of the budget calculation, right out of the budget spreadsheet. So I just want to say thank you, department heads, for saying, Glenn, you forgot how to do math. They were right. This is the math. This is the correction to that. I just want to explain also that going forward, that again, Karen will talk about some awards that have come through. So I did a calculation for some of those that we anticipate. So we think we've been awarded around $756,000. And I feel reasonably confident that within that 756, we'll also get the DLTA contract as well. When you get 756,000, whatever amount you get awarded for multiple contracts, and this is about 5 or 6 or 7, all that money doesn't dump into your budget right away. It's not always available right away because the contracts will go over 6, 12, 18, 24 months. So I tried to do a reasonable projection, and that's what that hollow bullet says below there. that I believe that we'll receive about 513,000 out of the 756. Where do I get that math? Jason, if you could scroll a little bit. In the hollow bullet, how do I get the 513? Based on those numbers from some awards that we've just been awarded, and I do anticipate DLTA to come in also. And so portions of those, in some cases, all of those funds will be realized, because you can see in the middle of that paragraph, 140,455 contract ends on 6/30/27. So I anticipate that 100% of that will come in by June 30. So if you add all those up, what happens is in that paragraph says, if we receive 513,696 for the remainder of FY26 and overhead costs do not increase, then our estimated overhead rate might be in the vicinity of 88.93% or 88.93. That's the math per the calculation, again, from the budget spreadsheet. Thanks again for Holly. She caught some errors that I didn't see today. So it's really helpful to have a proofer and a sounding board on that. So that encapsulates I just wanted to be, thanks department heads for showing me. I forgot how to do math. I cleaned it up, fixed it. I'm just trying to fix it tonight. And again, I just want to close by saying Karen will explain more about some awards later on. That's all I have for 5.2, unless anybody has any questions.
All right, any questions from the commission? All right, continuing on. Glenn, you're on mute.
I'm sorry about that. I apologize to everybody. Because legislation does move slowly through the state legislature, this is virtually the same report as the September meeting about our retirement legislation that is basically in the Senate Ways and Means and in the House Ways and Means. So the bottom line is legislation to have us not pay a back payment on retirement costs for retirees for their pension costs is now being considered by both Ways and Means in both houses. In the future, we had a system where if we have nothing new to report, then those are the words that we put in here. So instead of just copying and pasting, which is what I did from September to tonight to October, I'll just say nothing new to report. But this needs to stay on the agenda just to show you what's going on, even though there's not a lot of movement sometimes. That's all I have for 5.3, unless anybody has any questions.
Any questions from the commission? All right, hearing none, let's continue.
Okay, 5.4. So several years ago. So for many years, our quorum requirement was 6 communities. Several years ago, it was changed to 5. It was about a month ago. I think it was after the September meeting. I had to go into research the state enabling statute for regional planning commissions to look up something. And I tripped across a sentence in there that says, hey, regional planning agencies quorum requirement is 25% of its communities at that time. 25% of 22 is 5 point something. There was the 5.5 or 5.75. So rounding up to 6. That's why we had always had the 6 before that. It went to 5 by commission vote several years ago. I'm just recommending that we go back to be in sync and in compliance with the state statute. So basically, the paragraph says, in italics, that's the quote about you shall have lack of quorum. Oh, there's some additional language in there that I just want to make sure people are aware of. We used to have to exercise this, where a quorum of the commission shall consist of at least 1/4, there's the 25% rule, of the duly named members or alternate designees. Lack of a quorum shall not prevent the members at an officially called meeting from coming to order, making motions, and discussing or passing motion to continue said meeting to a later time. So you're very unique. Commissions are very unique in that, having been a formally elected and appointed official, when I walked into a meeting, didn't have a quorum. I said, "There's no meeting. Let's leave." In your case, you can actually do a little bit of business. You have to ratify the next time around. But the bottom line, this is about going back to 6 communities being present. I will call him a senior statesperson, Alan Pease. He's been on the commission for 30, 35, or 40 years. We notified the commissioners about this proposed vote at the September meeting. And I emailed Alan a couple days ago and I said, okay, you're my senior member in the crowd. and you always hold me to task on these things. We did notice 30 days ago, we have to notify no less than 1 week if we make an amendment to our bylaws, i.e. a quorum change. He emailed me back. He said two things. He said, you're on solid ground and I won't be there. I've got a wedding to go to. And then there's a resolution there to go back to the 6 communities in attendance at such meetings in the future. And that's all I have for that. I'm respectfully requesting a resolution be adopted this evening. Thank you.
All right, well, let's pause for a moment here. Any questions from the commission on this matter?
No, just a comment. I mean, it's good to be compliant with the, state law in this matter, because anything we did do, I suppose, could be challenged if we were out of compliance. So I support the resolution.
Excellent. Any additional questions from the commission?
Guy Corbacero, just want to mention that I think we went down to 5 in the period when we were meeting in person, and just it was tough getting that many commissioners together. In this day and age with Zoom meetings, I don't see 6 any problem, so I'd like to move the resolution as printed.
Excellent, thank you. So
I'll second that too. I agree completely.
Excellent. Hearing a first and a second, any additional discussion? All right, calling a vote by roll.
Doug Thornton,
Thornton, I.
Guy Corbacero,
Guy Corbacero, aye.
Brian Keating,
Aye.
Robert Swartz,
Aye.
Thomas Russo,
Aye.
Peter Cunningham,
Yeah, Cunningham, aye.
Christopher Monroe.
Monroe, aye.
I believe that's it.
All right, thank you.
Jason, excuse me, Jason, we had Hartley join us.
Oh, didn't see that. Thank you.
Say any
Sorry.
commissioners not called?
Hartley?
I'll say aye.
All right, any other commissioners not called? All right, here none, the motion carries and is approved. All right, returning back to the agenda for 5.5 for Mr. Eden.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Long story really, really short, we've been talking about adopting a revolving loan fund policy. Jason, I'm going to ask you if you'd be so kind to go to the handouts folder or wherever you have handouts. Would you pull up the revolving loan fund policy so we can put that on? And you were locked and loaded, and I appreciate that. Okay, really quick. In 2001, we got a Brownfields EPA revolving loan fund cleanup grant. We made a loan to one party in 2006 for $350,000. We have been receiving income on that loan. We call it program income. You can go back to the cash schedule if you want to see the balance of our EPA program income account. It's about 360,000 plus ish, whatever it is. I didn't memorize it from the top of the agenda. We can lend that money that comes back to us. We need a policy to do so. This policy was reviewed in a high level of detail in 2019. COVID hit, and this has been on the agenda, this issue, since at least May of this year, if not earlier, to try to get it back into the noses of commissioners. Most of you who were not on the commission at the time of the 01 to 06 grant and then loan, I'm not going to name who was on the commission at that time because I don't want to date anybody, namely myself, but others. The gist of the policy is to make loans for site assessment work and cleanup work or remediation work. Very, very, very quickly, program goals. The goals are to make loans. This is basically what I'm going to call gap financing. So if somebody wants to clean up a site, let's pick a gas station, and they want to put up a commercial or industrial enterprise or even green space or something, private sector applicants and public sector applicants can apply to, in those hollow bullets, improve the environment, eliminate or reduce public health risks, support the retention and creation of jobs, create housing units for the workforce. So it's pretty broad to try to help the society. Item number 2, I'm not going to go over everything here. Program objectives. Jason, if you could scroll. Please, thank you very much. Creating an incentive for private investment in the area of brownfields, and we want to prevent or prevent the speed of contamination through other properties. Program description. We basically want to. This goes into a little more detail. We want to remove hazardous substances, pollutants, and contaminants at brownfield sites through assessment and remediation. Jason, could you go down to paragraph 4? I'm just going to say one thing on each section really quickly. The funding, it identifies the funding source, and we will continue to go after more brownfield revolving loan fund cleanup funds in the future from EPA. Will apply in the future. I think we're eligible to apply next year. I defer to other parties on that. Eligible project applicants and threshold requirements. This is the list to basically say, look, how are you going to be eligible? How are you going to judge people to be eligible? Folks, when I used to do commercial lending in the nonprofit world, this is very similar to what we used to do. People have to be credible. They have to have a P&S on the property. They can't have any outstanding taxes, fees, or judgments or liens. They can't be responsible for the contamination and so on and so forth. Scroll down, please, to eligible activities. This is just kind of a rehash on environmental site assessments in the first sentence and remediation, meaning cleanup. All right. So that's what we would be allowing applicants to do. Findings and terms. This goes into the terms and conditions. Now, there are some caveats in here. The second bullet here, the maximum loan term will generally be 5 years. Generally is obviously a very open word, gives us a little bit of flexibility to say, as example, the one loan we have is a 20-year note because it's on a piece of real estate. So it's a signal to the commercial lending community that we want smaller loans, shorter terms. But if it's a piece of real estate and we need a 20-year term, which is typical commercial lending, generally speaking, for terms of loans, not like a house for 30 or 40 years, but commercials usually around 20 years, 50 to 100 basis points between below the competitive commercial lenders market. In other words, below market rate loan. We're not going to compete with banks. We want to complement, supplement, and do gap financing. And I think that's really very important. We talk here about collateral. We reserve the right to have additional collateral beyond a building or a property. Jason, you can go down also to item 8. Request for amendment to loan terms. This basically says if you want to amend a loan term after you've got a loan, you can come in, but there's a cost. Underwriting criteria. Just want to pause there and basically say that when Karen, Tracy, and I went to Portland, Maine, a couple of years ago, there was at a brownfields conference, we all learned a great deal. Some of the takeaways I had were, get the money back out on the street, but there are entities that do the underwriting on behalf of a grantee like MRPC that has money to relend. We should outsource the underwriting. We are not underwriters. We are not bankers. So there are options and ways to do that. There is a Council of Governments in Maine that does underwriting on behalf of other grantees, but we would basically look for, who does this the best and for a reasonable amount of reasonable fee, I should say. Jason, could you scroll down again after underwriting criteria and review criteria? I'm not going to bore you with all this. Basically, I really highlighted the most important thing, I think, above. Jason, can you just scroll down after criteria? And then there's a checklist at the very end after the white space. So the checklist is basically for the applicant. Look, this is all the stuff that we need to have you, give us your credit references, a financial overview, name, people, site conditions, and so on and so forth, and environmental remediation plan and so on. That's the gist of the policy. I'd love to get it adopted. And so we can then take the draft brochure that we have and put it on the street, basically to commercial lenders, to banks, lawyers, Indian chiefs, accountants, and say, we've got some money, we want to do some gap financing. So please, let's continue. That's the overview. Thank you for your time.
All right. Questions from the commission?
Yeah, question. Glenn, under the application review criteria section, FA talks about loan review committee. How is that established, I guess, or who would that be? chairman and treasurer of the MRPC? Okay. So this would be staff people doing this, correct?
So what we'd be looking for is, that was review criteria. Was that section that Jason's scrolling to?
No, FA, the loan review committee.
Okay, gotcha.
Comprised of the chairman and treasurer of MRPC.
So you can change that, you can keep it. That was proposed. Let me go back in
Yeah,
time.
I'm just asking. I'm not.
No, but you deserve an answer. You deserve
Yeah,
an answer.
okay.
So the basis of this, the structure of this, came from Portland, Maine. Ironically, it had nothing to do with the conference. I believe it was Portland, Maine. Gosh, I hope it really was. But it was another grantee that had received revolving loan funds, and they created a loan policy. In there, I remember this now. It's coming back to me from 19. They mentioned the city manager and I think CFO of the city or something like that, and then 3 people from the private sector. So they basically had at that time like 2 public employees and then 3 people from the private sector. So if you go to FA section where it says the people of the loan review committee will consist of.
What's FA? I don't know what that is.
Stop.
So-
What section is
Number
it
10,
under? Peter?
number 10 under
10.
application review criteria, then paragraph F, and then
And then
Oh,
F.
okay.
There we go.
gotcha.
Yep.
My bad.
So chairman and treasurer of the MRPC or their designees and 3 private sector representatives will be chosen by the MRPC. At least 2 things here. First of all, it's MRPC. You can just as easily say chairman, treasurer, and assistant treasurer, and then two private sector people. However you want to make it up is fine. And that's why, I put this out here several times to have you review it and look at it and say, do you want to make any changes? That's perfectly fine. I do find having private sector people on, i.e., if you can get a commercial lender and an attorney to volunteer to sit 2 meetings a year with us public sector folks, you really get a good understanding of how this process works from the private sector.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. I think it's good to have that expertise.
I think I heard you say, Peter, staff. No, I don't want anybody. I don't recommend any MRPC staff sit on that loan review committee. This should really be volunteers. This should really be planning commissioners and private sector people. And we staff support the loan review committee. We staff support the commissioners and the commissioners make the loan. You are the board of directors of the bank in this case, if you will.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks for asking.
All right, additional questions from the commission? All right, do we have someone who would like to move the resolution?
Yeah, I'll offer motion then we adopt the resolution and the creation of the or the adoption of this policy is presented.
Second, Guy Corbisero.
Thank you. Here in a first and a second. Any additional discussion? All right, hearing none, calling a vote by roll call.
Chuck Thornton,
Thornton, I.
Guy Corbisero,
Guy Corbisero, aye.
Brian Keating,
Aye.
Robert Schwartz,
Aye.
Thomas Russo,
Aye.
Peter Cunningham,
Yeah, Cunningham, aye.
Christopher Monroe,
Aye.
and Hartley.
Lee Pashaw, aye.
Thank you. Any commissioners not heard or called? All right, thank you. The motion carries. So moving on to the agenda is item 5.6. This is an item that was previously on our agenda a couple times, but we took it off to have some extra work done on it. And I personally worked with Glenn and the team on putting together at least the first part of it that's going to be presented tonight. So there's ultimately 2 major concerns that come up here. The first one is well, how do the staff use artificial intelligence? And then the second major concern is how or if the organization starts using artificial intelligence in terms of decision making. So we, Glenn and I met along with Holly, we went through some options for having a staff-facing policy. I'll shortly turn it over to Glenn to talk about some of the staff comment, but this is ultimately a policy that's being presented that was based upon some models that were put out by the Society of Human Resources that look at different ways to use AI within a business. So this is not a policy necessarily to restrict the use of AI. It's a policy to promote the responsible use of it, because there are a lot of advantages that can come up. Like, for example, in my planning board work, I've had to go back and look at different versions of bylaws over a many decades period. Something like that used to involve pretty much an entire Saturday in a six-pack. But now it can get done in literally moments using some of these AI tools. The things that they are able to do, obviously subject to human verification, are really pretty powerful and pretty impressive, which is why this is being put up the way that it is, to encourage that responsible use of it and to discourage people from taking AI content and then just pushing it out as their own without conducting any kind of review on it. So with that, I'll turn this item back over to Glenn.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm glad you took the lead on this. So thank you, Christopher, because this is really your world. It's a very technical world. It's way out of my scope. And I want to, and I deeply appreciate your input. We had a great meeting with Holly last week, I think. And I thought that was, I understand a hell of a lot more after that meeting. And thank you again. Thanks to, we sent to those out to department heads. Jason and Holly had some comments that were very good. And the bottom line for anybody, for me, with my title, for anybody adopting an AI policy for an organization, let's pretend for a moment that AI doesn't exist and that it doesn't make it easier for us to do speedy research. Well, how did we used to do research? We would read, comprehend, understand. To Christopher's point about reading a lot of bylaws with libation, it takes a certain number of hours, and AI can save a lot of hours. So what did we used to do? We would go to a library. We would, this new thing called the internet, be able to download bylaws, read them, zoning ordinances, compare, contrast, summarize, go to a planning board meeting and say, is this what you want to adopt a home occupation bylaw in your community of 40,000 or 4,000 people? What do you really want? So to me, the core, the nexus of this is the human being, the employee, whatever tool they're going to use, whether it's a library or an internet or an AI tool, to when they use these tools to then go back and verify that the information's okay. So there was a great comment, written comment that Jason gave me, and I made an edit in here about, the employee still has to make sure that the information is accurate. We don't want to allow anyone to do an executive summary of a 300-page master plan or a SEDS or a whatever, and then say, okay, give me a 2-page executive summary of those 300 pages, and then not review the executive summary and not make sure it's accurate. So that's one thing that's in here. And then also, Jason, another comment, which I liked about, and Christopher and Jason both had the same comment. It was virtually identical about not using, personal, like a personal Gmail account to use a chatbot outside of work or in work with your personal account to use that tool. We have to manage the tools carefully. And quite frankly, I'm going to lean heavily on Jason and Kayla to set up, what AI tools we should use. So when Jason comes to me and he says, okay, we're going to use your G-Eaton at mrpc.org account to use these 2 AI tools, and we'll test these. Okay, Jason, Kayla, set these up. Wonderful. We'll monitor, check on the use. But we have to stay kind of within a similar box. So we're all using, if we're all going to use, AI tool A and B and C, then all the employees have to use A and B and C, because we have to look at, do those work for us? Do those work well? So we can gather data to see what's good and what works well and what doesn't work well, as opposed to 16 or 18 employees using 16 or 18 different chat, because we need some management control and oversight of what we're going to use. So to me, that's the gist of the policy. Jason, if you'd be so kind as to go down to overview. So we really hope that, the AI chatbot, whatever we use, will help with these things. Karen, I thought, had a fantastic comment at a department head meeting we had 10 or 14 days ago about it. I hope it will help me with the spreadsheet task. And I hope it will too. I didn't even think of that. But we hope that we will be able to do more than just do executive summaries and big plans, but with kind of tedious, mundane tasks that why review something for 8 hours when AI can do something in 8 seconds, but we just have to go back and review it. Jason, could you go down below overview? Eligibility, we're saying, look, we have to follow this as employees and sort of our consultants. After that, under eligibility, Jason, is another section, I'm sorry. So basically, here's where you get into the meat and potatoes of the policy. We'll use our accounts. I'll say personal email addresses and credential phone numbers cannot be used to create an account with these technologies for work-related purposes. So that's a very, very important sentence in here. Acceptable uses, Jason, if you could scroll down a little bit. You have to have a list of acceptable uses and then unacceptable uses. So those are in here. Any violation, disciplinary action. Jason, scroll down, please. And then we're almost at the end. It says page 2. We're on page 3. Training. We owe people training. That came up, I think, by Holly, Jason, or both this week. It's like, well, wait a minute. We're going to offer training. Where do you get it? We're going to go find it. We owe employees training. Be ethical in the use. Christopher. So this comes from the private sector. I'm going to throw this back to Christopher as I end right now. And I didn't know this until Holly and I met with Christopher last week about compliance with state consent and wiretapping laws. I had no idea that, the wiretapping was an issue, and then we will monitor the policy. Christopher, I'm going to throw the ball back at you if you want to close up this section, and thank you all
sure.
for your time.
So specifically to talk about the compliance with state consent or wiretapping laws, as everybody may or may not know, Massachusetts actually has some of the most robust wiretapping laws in the country, and making a secret recording of an individual is a felony in this state. And there is some precedent out there that suggests that allowing a AI tool to listen in on a conversation, like how we have AI note takers that listen in to help with the minutes, that doing that in a situation where you're not telling people that the meeting or the call is being recorded is potentially a violation of that state wiretapping law. So that's why it gets this whole big paragraph, and why when we started having some of these AI tools start to show up to the meetings, which they're welcome to because it's a public meeting, as long as you are declaring that you're making a recording, it is okay to make a recording of a public meeting. But because it is a recording and it needs to be public and not secret, that's why that immediately drew attention from me. And then that's why there's this clause that is within here. And I've implemented these at the organization I've worked at and helped some of my clients implement these. The policy is just the first part of it. Really ongoing training and taking time to think about how these tools can be helpful is really the key to success on this. And that although we're adopting this policy now, I wouldn't be, well, hopefully if it gets approved by the commission, I wouldn't be surprised if we were here in 6 months looking to tweak it, or if we were here in a year looking to tweak it, because this is a place where we're out on pretty fresh snow, and there is not a clear right way to do it, but I'm pretty confident in the way we have out here. So, Mr. Cunningham?
Yeah, question. Yeah, Christopher, do we know what are other planning agencies doing this? Do we know? Is there any guidance on what they're doing in some of the other, our counterpart agencies?
So I can't speak to what other agencies are doing, but I can speak to some other governmental organizations and nonprofits, and they are adopting these policies of some shape or some type. Because there's just so much risk related to not trying to control the use of AI. Because without a policy, or well, really, there's a couple options. There's not having a policy, which means that everybody's out there using their personal email addresses, signing up for whatever tool they want, and we're potentially leaking data all over the place. And we're not imposing standards. If somebody produces a report, that was generated by AI that they didn't double check or they didn't even read through and it gets submitted as work product to somebody, it would be hard to discipline that person without having a clear policy about what the expectations are related to the tools. So there's a lot of compelling HR reasons and a lot of compelling legal risk management reasons, particularly related to IP law and some of the other stuff that comes up here. But those are the key issues that are driving this type of policy for an organization like us.
Yeah.
And Peter, to your question, I don't know if others have one, but ironically, I got an email yesterday from one of my colleagues, one of the GIS people. We have a group of RPA GIS people, and we frequently communicate about things. And he said, "Hey, does anybody have an AI policy?" And I
Mhm.
said, "Well, we will hopefully in a couple of days." And so he was trying to gather everybody's AI policies in a place where everybody could access them and review them and help each other out. So if they don't have them, I know that this is at least on their radar.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's a rapidly emerging technology, and I agree 100% we need a policy. So this is a good start.
Any additional questions or comments? All right, if there's no additional questions or comments, we'll need somebody to move the resolution to adopt the policy.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the policy, the generative artificial intelligence, AI or chatbot usage policy.
All right, thank you. Here in a first, do we have a second?
Second.
Schwartz, second.
All right, hearing some seconds there. Any additional discussion?
I think it's necessary, and it looks pretty good that we have a good beginning. Let's move it.
All right, any additional comments? All right, calling a vote by roll.
Doug Thornton,
Thornton, I.
Guy Corbacero,
Corbacero, aye.
Brian Keating. Is Brian still with us? I'll come back. Robert Schwartz,
Schwartz, aye.
Thomas Russo,
Aye.
Peter Cunningham,
Yeah, Cunningham, I.
Christopher Monroe,
Monroe, aye.
and Hartley.
Lee Shaw, aye.
And then coming back to Brian Keating.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, any commissioners not heard or called? All right, the motion carries. Thank you, everybody, for the work on it. Now, there was quite a bit that went into this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look forward to talking about this one probably every 6 to 12 months going forward for pretty much the rest of our lives. All right, so moving forward on the agenda, I believe we have the next lunch and learn.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your time. Thank you all for your help this evening. Take care.
Thank you.
Did you have any comment on the next lunch and learn?
Other than that, it's that date. Will be probably the highlights will be. I'm trying not to have so much doom and gloom and trying to bring more planning related stuff. So the government shutdown will figure on this one and funding. You know, the federal funding spigot seems to have slowed turning off. But the government shutdown will probably be chatted about in October 29th, and hopefully we can look into the rearview mirror and that where the federal government will be reopened. So that's the gist. That's our hope, and looking forward to seeing people then. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. So moving forward into department updates. Any updates from GIS?
So just a general note, we did do a comprehensive quarterly update of all of the current project status. It's all available in the apps, but other than that, I have no major updates at this time.
Excellent, thank you. Planning and development.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have things to say. So I'll get to the grants first because Glenn mentioned it. So I can announce some of them. I can not announce others. So we did receive a Mass Trails grant to do trail visioning for 4 of our communities. We applied for 86,000 and received 50,000, so we don't know if we're going to shrink the scope a little bit. But we just got that the other day, and the communities are Ashburnham, Ashby, Winchendon, and Westminster. We received notice that we were awarded a Paul Brune Historic Preservation Grant in the amount of $750,000 that we're doing with CMRPC, so the whole Central Mass region. That's obviously on hold right now. We were awarded an EDA 3-year grant for $210,000. That is also on hold because of the shutdown. And I understand that we're the only economic development district in Massachusetts that did receive a planning grant from EDA, so yay us. We also received REPA, Regional Energy Planning Assistance under Green Communities. We received $76,000 to assist our communities with their annual reports and competitive grant applications, and adding the schools in Athol and Royalston to their baselines. We also received 2 one-stop applications that we put in for us. One in the amount of 143,000 and one in the amount of 140,000. One of them is to do housing choice for 4 communities. Let's see, where's that note? Ashby, Groton, Lunenburg, and Shirley will be doing the housing choice. We'll be doing evaluating what they need to do to become designated and help them with best practices. The other one stop is Templeton, Winchendon, Phillipston, and Hubbardston. And this is to do visions and goals for village development and design guidelines. So we're in contracting for those now. And then I think that's it right now, which is great. We were getting to the end of our funding, and we were a little nervous that we weren't going to have any money moving forward, but we've gotten practically everything that we've applied for this year, so that's fantastic. And congratulations to any of our communities who got one-stop grants or MVP grants. We assisted 7 of our communities with MVP grants. Unfortunately, only Petersham was awarded $100,000 for an emergency communication plan, but all those communities we can try again. So that's it for the grants. Also, I'm sorry, other communities in our region also got mass trails for rail trails and improvements.
Yeah.
The Department of Energy Resources has created an eco stop, so it's a one-stop for environment and climate, and that is going to be similar to the current one-stop program, but it's for climate and the environment, obviously by the name. And they've rolled these following programs into that. So the MVP, Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness grants, cooling corridors grants, the planning assistance grants that we used to apply for annually, that's being lumped in here. Dams and seawalls grant, and the culvert replacement program. And then there's a couple of coastal ones that we're not a part of yet. So that program is open now. They're taking expressions of interest until October 28th. So if any of you have any ideas for any of those programs, you can contact us. And then the application period will be open in January, February for full applications, and they expect to do awards in June. So that's the climate. MBTA communities, since we last met, Townsend and Westminster passed their overlay districts and bylaws. Ashburnham, Sterling, and Lunenburg have upcoming town meetings to pass theirs. We haven't had any disapproval yet for any of our communities, which is fantastic. And Shirley just received a grant, a Catalyst Fund grant, which was created for MBTA communities to do preparation work for the multifamily coming in. So we applied for Shirley and Shirley received that grant. So they're going to do some intersection studies near their multifamily district. So that's excellent. Almost the end of MBTA communities. Yeah. And then the last thing is the Department of Energy Resources has a clean energy siting and permitting regulation that has come out as part of the 2024 Climate Act. Communities are going to have to adopt bylaws to approve small energy projects that are less than 25 megawatts or less than 100 megawatts of battery storage. You'll have to permit within a month. Within a year. Wow, a month. Within a year. The state has created a model bylaw that's on their website. Their regulations are on their website. Comments are due back to them on October 17th. My department plans to submit comments, so if anybody has comments or wants to read that, let me know. Communities must comply by December of 2026.
Can we pause for a moment here because I don't want to get too far away from this particular item. It seemed like they sent out the notice of this really super late for a very short comment period. And there's some things that are in that rule that I think are pretty concerning about the circuit riders, and it essentially sets up an extra judicial system for overriding local authority on some of these issues. And I don't know how we have a meaningful conversation about this in the time that we have tonight as a commission, or frankly, in the time that they've given us for comment. Which I was surprised, but having had them come to our last meeting and talk about what they were going to do for a process for all of this stuff to be sent out with literally just a couple of days notice before they held meetings in some of our communities was crazy. I don't know if anybody else had some thoughts and feelings on that might be good for incorporating in the commission's comment. Or are there other people finding out about this for the first time at this meeting, since there's only been a couple days notice to find out about it?
Yeah, for sure.
I agree. I haven't heard of this.
I haven't either.
Yeah, if anything, and I'd like to open this up to discussion of the commission. Yeah, if anything, our comment on it is we're kind of horrified how we weren't given a little more notice and how rushed this comment period was, and how this circuit rider system seems to just be a way to circumvent existing processes and do extrajudicial review of this. I'm just pausing for a moment to think about how we handle a discussion on this, because this isn't actually an agenda discussion, but given the time frame that there is for responding on this, perhaps what we do is we have anyone who has comments on this, I think probably the best thing to do is just send that comment to Karen. That way we're not taking up a ton of time and pushing this meeting super late on something that probably nobody else has had an opportunity to review yet. Um,
Chris, are
Karen,
you I'm sorry.
when,
Yeah, I'd
Chris,
like
are
when,
you,
Oh, go ahead.
when would be a good time for commissioners to get some of their thoughts on the proposed regulation to you for you to make the comment deadline on the 17th?
uh, the 16th is fine. Or do you want me to write what I'm gonna write and send it to you guys and you can agree or disagree? I mean, I'm sending it as a department, what my department thinks, but if you want me to include the commission stuff, I will.
What's your reaction to it, Karen? I mean, what are you going to be sending?
Um, I have a lot of notes that I took when I read through it. I think it's burdensome for both the applicant and the town. There's a pre-application period, which is, in my opinion, very short. I mean, they want it in 12 months. And the other thing is you still have to go through like the Conservation Commission. And if you had to go through the planning board for a site plan or whatever, or something else, or if you had to go to the highway department for whatever, um, you still have to do those things. And if one of the boards says no, then they don't get the permit, but the other departments or boards still have to go through their process. It's just really, I think it's too confusing and I don't know how they're gonna, I mean, each town has to assign a person who's going to be responsible for this one single permit that comes out of the town that also includes all the other required forms. You know, like the Wetlands Protection Act has specific forms, and the planning board has specific forms. So there's a lot of things that I think are wrong with it. What were you referring to, Chris? Were you referring to where the energy siting and infrastructure board or whatever they're called, that they were involved in it? Like if there's an appeal, if the applicant or a neighbor appeals, it's to this state board, energy
Yeah,
siting board.
the local circuit riders, I think was how they were terming it in the regulation. Um, where they can just essentially overrule well, their role is to facilitate the process, but it is to facilitate the process to approval is what their role is based upon how it's structured within this.
That's
So
the impression that I got as well. Like we're gonna push these through no matter what.
yeah, regulatory circuit rider is the term of art. And I just dropped the proposed regulation in the chat for everyone. But an individual appointed by the department for the purpose of offering technical, administrative, and regulatory assistance on small clean energy infrastructure siting and permitting topics.
Yeah.
But the charge is much broader than that in the regulation itself. But
Mhm.
yeah, this is a pretty big thing for, and obviously this is not you, this is the state, just to clarify for everyone. It is the state that is only giving people essentially 2 weeks notice to comment on something that is a pretty big regulatory shift on this issue, especially given how heated it is in some of our neighboring towns. It was really kind of disappointing to see the state take the way that they did. But it does sound like, and I'll let the commission speak for itself, but it does sound like you're probably pretty in line with what a lot of the commissioners are thinking. So it would probably just make sense to have commissioners send you some of their thoughts, and if they resonate with what you're doing, to just incorporate them, because there isn't
Okay.
enough time to hold a meeting on this to send like an official commission letter.
Right.
So I think all we can do is the best we can in the situation.
Yeah, and the way I did the comments for when the MBTA regulations came out was I took everybody's comments and, said I was representing our communities in the letter. And I guess that's what I should do here.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's just extremely disappointing because the local rep came to our meeting, talked about how this is going to be an engaging process, and they totally did the opposite. So I don't feel super great about that as a not so much personally, but as a representative of my town and a representative of the commission, that was what we were told, and then they did very different things.
And I believe that presentation is in the meeting handouts, Polly, probably, that he gave Stephen Mino. He's the it's regional coordinators similar to the Green Communities. They call themselves circuit riders. He gave a present, was it September or or August? I can't remember.
September.
which one.
Yeah. Yeah, it was our last meeting.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to take up too much more time on this. Any additional comments or concerns from the commission that we haven't already brought up?
Just to review, so Karen, this is Brian in Lancaster. We're reading this draft regulations. Is that what it is, regulations or?
Yes,
Yeah, okay, and getting you comments by next Thursday?
Thursday. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can work on that. I'll start looking at this tomorrow.
And
Yeah,
there's one other thing in it that I don't like either, and that's the site suitability score. So each parcel has to have a site suitability score, and it, it's I'm skeptical of it because they're um they're sacrificing forest for solar, or it seems like they're sacrificing protection of natural resources in some way. So there is a group that Audubon has put together that as I speak, they're doing a mapping exercise to discover if the suitability scores are going to be useful. So when I get that, I can send it out too. But everything is on their website. The regulations have a comment period, like I said, October 17th. There's guidelines and there's some other stuff on there that they've come out with that will be comment periods for as well. And it's all on their website.
and I just uploaded those additional links into the meeting chat.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I'm looking at the CMR now from the link you put in the chat, Chris, and it's there's a lot in there, but it does seem that local input is muted a little bit in a lot of these things.
Yeah, they think every community is the size of within 128, that they have a lot of staff and they can just do this. But,
Yeah.
For people who don't even have an assistant to help them, it's just the board. How does
All
this
right.
happen?
Well, just to try to keep us close to schedule, any other final comment on this before we move on? We took up a lot of time on this one. All right. Well, let's go forward. Anything else, Karen, before we move on to transportation?
That's all I had. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you, and thank you for helping us along with that discussion about the proposed regulation. Any updates from transportation?
Yes, actually, I did prepare a presentation tonight. I understand we're right up against time here. It's in relation to the Safe Streets for All Safety Action Plan we're working on. This is out for public comment right now. You've probably seen some emails. I can really quickly go through this. Jason, if I could just share my screen. Not sure if I.
Yeah, I hit the allow button.
Okay. Just find the right one. Sorry, it's taking me a minute to figure out the right window. Okay. And no, sorry. Some background on this. We received a grant from Federal Highway Administration back in December of 23 to create a safety action plan for the Montezuma region. I discussed this last month. We hadn't sent it out for public comment yet. It wasn't ready, but we have that ready now. It's available on our website. You probably saw some reminder emails with this in the past week or so. Is that, can you see that? Is it just blank?
It's blank, yeah.
Um, about that.
There we go.
Okay. So I'll just quickly go over this. I was going to go through how we came up with the results that we did through this plan. Basically, this is a safety plan. We've been working on it. The premise behind this federal program is to work towards Vision Zero, which is zero fatalities or incapacitating injuries on the roadways. So we've been working closely along with our project consultant, WSP, over the last year and a half. They did a lot of the kind of legwork and public outreach and that type of thing to put this together. Number of our communities also received grants. Leominster, Fitchburg, Gardner, I think got one, Clinton. I don't believe they have a plan in place yet, but basically what will happen when this plan is in place is all the projects that we identify will qualify for federal funding. So I'll quickly go through what's in each chapter very, very shortly, just to give you an indication of how we came up with the projects that we did. We have an executive summary, more or less, and chapter 1 goes over a lot of what's in there. Chapter 2 is some background of the program, its purpose. Again, there's a federal highway program. Chapter 3 is more or less a literature review. We looked at current research, best practices that inform the plan, that type of thing. Public outreach was a huge portion of this. Our consultant was instrumental in the public outreach portion. We formed an action committee, a Vision Zero action committee. At the outset of it, we ran by everything that we did, methodology, kind of direction where we're going through this committee. We solicited feedback at every step of the way. It was formed, comprised of a number of representatives from communities across our region. We had a number of public meetings. The last one that we had was back in June in Leominster at Leominster City Hall. We conducted a public survey. You may have seen our consultants out last fall at various events, festivals, grocery stores, libraries, that type of thing. So public outreach was a huge portion of it. And really analysis, the nuts and bolts of it came in chapter 5. We analyzed crash data in the region. That's something that we've done as a department going back a long time. It's required of us through our MPO work, through our federally required planning documents to kind of analyze crash statistics in the region, set benchmarks and performance measures, that type of thing. So we looked at crash data to inform us where these safety issues exist throughout the region. We looked at every trend you can imagine. Some of those are listed here. From this crash data, we came up with what we collectively call the high injury network of the region. So specific locations that came to us basically because there was a lot of crashes there. We went a step further in chapter 6. We looked at a number of factors which were proven predictive measures, even though crashes may not have occurred there in the windows that we looked at. We know that some locations have safety issues. There's some federal highway resources that go into studies on proven predictive measures. Some of that is demographics, some of that is geometrics, other things. We also brought in our survey results and our communication with town officials in this predictive type of exercise. And from this, we ended up with a high risk network. So the high risk network is a predictive type of measure of locations, and the high injury was the historic crash data, which informed us where these safety issues occurred. Chapter 7, we blended these two things. We added some weight. So some of these locations were both high risk and high injury. Some of them were one or the other, and some of them were neither, but still displayed some level of safety issues. So we go into the weighting system that we used in Chapter 7. Chapter 8, we go into the countermeasures that we're suggesting, what we suggest at each location to mitigate crashes. We detail that methodology in Chapter 8. Chapter 9, there's a requirement of the program that we prioritize and rank the projects that we come up with. So we opted to go with a cost benefit analysis type of ranking. Essentially, the point of the program is to come up with low cost safety solutions at these locations to get crashes down. So we detailed that in Chapter 9. Aside from coming up with locations for projects, there's also a policy piece. Chapter 10 is our policy approach to achieving Vision Zero. Back in February, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, the MPO, adopted a Vision Zero policy statement. I mentioned Vision Zero is working towards zero fatalities and incapacitating injuries. We opted for a more realistic goal. So we opted for 70% reduction in fatalities and incapacitating injuries on the roadways. We set a sunset year of 2050 for that, which is significant because it's also aligns with our long range plan as well. We also have a number of data analysis that we did within this plan, developing crash trends in the region, different things. We're committed to carrying that within our federal obligations as an MPO staff, who's also the transportation staff at MRPC. We'll carry that reporting requirement within our existing federally required plans, like the Regional Transportation Plan, the Transportation Improvement Program. So that'll give us an indication whether we're hitting our goals or not. It's just not going to go away. It's not just going to exist on paper somewhere, but we're actually going to update this. And most interesting, the prioritized projects. Unfortunately, not every roadway is qualified for funding through this program. It's really a local jurisdiction, municipal-owned road program. However, there were a number of state jurisdiction roads that presented serious safety issues. Those locations aren't eligible for construction funds, shovel in the dirt funds, but they're eligible for what's called road safety audits. So we identified a number of locations for road safety audits. These are something we've done in the past. Basically, it's a collaborative effort between a number of professionals, planning, engineering, police, local representatives, Federal Highway, Mass DOT, to look at a section of roadway and come up with some safety improvements. The capital improvements are the projects on municipally owned roadways. So obviously, as much the most interest to our communities. The thing about the rankings, I mentioned we ranked all of these as required by the program. However, it doesn't matter if you have the number one ranked project or the last, they're all equally qualified. It's just a matter of we had to do it. But all the projects that you'll see in the plan are qualified or will be qualified once the MPO endorses this plan. One step further on how we came up with the ranking. Obviously, anytime you rank anything, it's somewhat controversial. I mentioned we came up with a cost benefit analysis. Essentially, how we did that was we used some federal highway tools available to us that were based on studies which gave an average crash reduction per countermeasure that can be expected. So we applied a number of countermeasures at the locations that we windowed out, and we applied this federal highway tool to determine what we could anticipate and crash reduction at those locations. Also, each crash is tied to a cost amount. So in other words, injury crash, it has a average cost related to it, and the inputs to that are insurance payouts, police details, property damage, road damage, what have you. Same thing for a fatal crash, same thing for a property damage only crash. So we took the the value of crash reduction that we assume, applied the cost of each crash that we would be preventing, presumably, and divided that number by the cost of the capital improvement that we're proposing to come up with our cost benefit analysis number. Again, doesn't really matter. Every project on the list would be eligible. Here are the road safety audits at the state-owned routes. We'll be looking into these. These, once the plan's adopted, will be eligible for funds for these road safety audits. And the capital projects, these are all on town jurisdiction roadways. Apologize, it's hard to see on the screen here. It's detailed very well in the plan. But essentially, these will all be qualified for federal funding. And I'll mention this is federal funding above and beyond what we typically see in the Montezut region. This is additional funding that isn't necessarily tied to our discretionary funds in our TIP, for example. So we're really trying to push these out and try to get some of these built and have that affect our overall crash numbers in the region. I'll just give an example of one of the projects. The highest ranked project in our region is an intersection in Townsend. It's Wallace Hill Road, Townsend Hill Road, and Highland Street. And we recommend speed feedback signs, retroreflective pavement markings, and some applications of low-cost countermeasures at the stop controls. The estimated capital cost of such a project is about $100,000. And using those tools available to us, we can assume a 30% reduction in crashes by implementing this type of countermeasure over the 20-year lifespan of such a project. We take the cost savings by reducing those crashes, which comes to $17 million in this case over 20 years. We divide that by the capital cost of the project, $100,000, and come up with our cost benefit ratio of 171. So that's how we came up with the rankings. There's over 52 projects that we identified. All these locations are highlighted in detail in the plan. Once the plan is endorsed by the MPO, it will be these will all be qualified for federal funding. These are all on local jurisdiction roads. And one of the things we made sure to do was each project is sensitive to the context of the town. We really went out of our way to have one-on-ones with every town's public officials, police chiefs, DPW, town administrators, what have you. Especially in the spring when we came up with these projects, we wanted to make sure everyone was comfortable with what we're proposing. Some communities might not be too keen on one countermeasure over the other. For example, maybe like speed bumps or something like that. We wanted to make sure that they were okay with the locations and the countermeasures that we're proposing. So we got to a good spot with that. This is basically the result of the plan. And by virtue of having this in place, hopefully the MPO will endorse this next week. All these will be eligible for federal funds. So one more piece on this. Once this plan is out the door and endorsed, the MPO takes care of everything for in terms of other requirements for each municipality. In other words, municipalities don't have to create their own policy, which they would have to do if they got their own funding and created their own plan. The MPO is doing that region-wide. But one thing that they do have to do is since MRPC is not owners of these roadways, we have no jurisdiction. The communities are responsible for applying for the funds and implementing the construction projects. So funds will be available to them, but they have to be the catalyst to go after them. We'll be in the background with the policy pieces and offering support. We're aware of when funding opportunities come forward for this program. This is all in the current legislation, bipartisan infrastructure law. Next year, we expect some new legislation. We're hoping this program is carried over. We know that they do plan to issue a funding opportunity at least one more time under Safe Streets for All, likely in the spring. So we'll pay attention to that. We'll make sure when the notice of funding opportunity gets presented, we highlight that and offer each community step-by-steps on what to do to get a project done. So basically, in a nutshell, this is what it is. It's available on our website. It's a really large document. It goes into a lot of detail. It's actually really interesting. And it's out for public comment right now. So that goes through, comment period goes through next Tuesday, October 14th. Today, we've received some minor comments, clarifications more or less from communities, nothing major. We don't anticipate anything major, but there's still a week left in the comment period. So we'll bring this before the MPO next week. I think they'll endorse it. And, we'll follow up with our communities after as to what projects are now qualified for funding and how to get that. So this is just informational. I'll probably be bring this up again, especially when the funding opportunity comes around again, as I mentioned in the spring. And if there's any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Also acknowledge WSP and from our staff, George Snow, he's the safety guru. He's doing the crash analysis for years, and he's had an instrumental piece of this plan. He's really made sure that all the T's were crossed and everything like that. So we're happy about where it is. We're happy about how it came out, and now we're looking forward to see crash reduction and reaching our goals that we set.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Any questions from the commission? All right. Well, thank you for that presentation. So returning to our agenda, I believe we've just about made it through. Do we have any? Oh, sorry, I almost missed an item for out-of-state travel. Yep, let's come back to that. Brian, can you walk us through what you're looking for on that one?
Yes. First, I'd like to stop sharing my screen. Basically, I don't know if Glenn wants to speak to this. We did a similar resolution last month for Bernie Cahill in that case to attend this conference, the Southern New England American Planning Association conference. It's an annual conference. It's in Newport this year. Our policy states that for out-of-state travel, it needs to be approved by the commissioners. And I cannot see the agenda right now because I'm trying to unshare. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong.
We can see it.
Okay, great. All right. So basically that's what it is. We're asking, requesting permission for out-of-state travel.
All right. Any questions about that from the commission before I call for a motion?
Mr. Chairman, Brian did a great job. It's he's going to commute, less costly, charges to the MassDOT contract. Brian, great job. Keep going.
All right. Questions from the commission on that? All right. Well, in that case, would somebody like to make a motion?
I make a motion that the approves the out-of-state travel for Bernie Cahill, principal planner to the SNEAPA 2025 conference in Newport, November 6th and 7th.
That's Brian Doherty. We did Bernie last month.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's my Peter. That's my typo. And
All right. All right. So yeah. So amend the motion to substitute Brian Doherty for Bernie Cahill.
All right. Thank you. Do we
Total
have
cost
a
not to
second?
exceed $600.
Thanks. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Here in a second. Any additional discussion? All right. Calling a vote by roll call.
Doug Thornton,
Martin, I.
Guy Corbacero. He may not be with us anymore. Brian Keating,
Aye.
Robert Schwartz,
Schwartz, aye.
Thomas Russo,
Aye.
Peter Cunningham,
Yeah, Cunningham, aye.
Christopher Monroe,
Monroe, aye.
and Hartley.
Any commissioners not called or heard? All right, the motion carries and is approved. Any new business for anything that was not previously added to the agenda? Any new business from any commissioners?
Nope.
All right, so moving forward, the next thing is our next meeting, which is going to be Thursday, November 6th at 7 p.m. And with that, would somebody like to make a motion?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
All right, do we have a second?
Second by Schwartz.
And it is non-debatable. Does anybody object? All right, hearing no objections, we are adjourned at 8:34 p.m. Thank you everyone for all the work into getting ready for tonight, and thank you to everybody for coming. We got quite a bit of business done, so
Yeah.
thanks again.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Take care.